Hi, Bethany Sansing-Helton here. I'm your basic statistics instructor, and this is a hopefully very short video where I introduce you to using Statcrunch for your homework in our class, starting in section 2.1. We're going to look at problem number 8, and I'm going to show you all the steps to use Statcrunch to get through it quickly and efficiently. The goal for using Statcrunch is to save you time and prevent you from making small mistakes with tedious calculation problems. And then also later in the course, when we get to more complicated problems that require statistical software, you're already very comfortable using Statcrunch. So here is the demo. All right, so in order to access Statcrunch, you're going to also want to access the Statcrunch how-to guide. So just while I'm here in our course Blackboard site, the Statcrunch how-to guide is here in the left-hand menu, Statcrunch how-to guide. You can download it, you can print it, download here, print here, or you can come to Blackboard and open it. I have gone ahead and I'm going to open it as a separate thing just so that we can see it better while we work. So as I said, we are doing question number 8 from homework 2.1. And so this question provides you with a frequency table. So a national survey asked people, how often do you eat out for dinner instead of at home? And the frequencies is just how many times people answered that question with that response. So 376 people said never, 341 said rarely, 966 said sometimes, 257 said most of the time, and 42 said always. So the first part of this asks to build a relative frequency distribution of the data. So this is not a super complicated calculation. A relative frequency distribution takes these numbers and calculates the percent of time people said never out of the total. So it's a division problem that's to calculate the percent, but you have to do that calculation 5 times, which can be tedious. So that's one of the reasons why we would want to go to Statcrunch. There's a little bit of a tip here that Statcrunch might be the way to go because it's got this icon and you can open in Statcrunch. So when you open it in Statcrunch, it'll take that table and it will go ahead and copy it straight into Statcrunch for you. So then to figure out what to do to create a relative frequency table for this data is you go to the Statcrunch guide and look in section 2.1, which is organizing qualitative data. So the first thing you have to do is figure out what kind of data this is that we're starting with. Is it raw data or is it summarized data? And since we're dealing with a frequency table, that's adding up all of the different survey responses into these groups. And so that is summarized data. And we want to make a relative frequency distribution from summarized data. So we're going to copy these steps. I'm going to try and make them a little bit bigger. So the data is already in the spreadsheet, and it's already got titles, the variables named, response and frequency up at the top here. So we don't have to do step 1. Step 2, put the cursor in the top cell of the frequency data column, which is right here. Then we select data and highlight compute, and then select expression. Next step is to create a column label. So here's column label. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it relative frequency. And then click build to put the expression in. So let's make this a little bigger so you can see it. So we're going to click build. And then you can see since we labeled the columns, the titles are right there. So we're going to create the calculation. And so the calculation is given here in the step-by-step instructions. So we're going to calculate a percentage of the numbers over the total. So sum gives us the total. So we have frequency, and then we're going to divide that. And sum is a function. So you can type in the word sum, or you can scroll down where it says sum and double click. And then we're going to put frequency in the parentheses. So now that looks just like this over here. So note that if you ended up if one of those column titles has spaces, you have to use double quotes around the title for it to figure out that it's the same thing. So then once we're here, we go ahead and we click compute. So it created a new column for us. Sometimes it'll create it in a pop-out. You can go ahead and copy. You can do all of these different things with it. But what we're going to do right now is we're just going to leave this window open. And here's the relative frequency. Now, the relative frequency just now needs to be typed in over here. So it says round to 3 decimal places. Now, you can just go ahead and round this in your head if you want. So 3 decimal places, 1, 2, 3. And I know not to turn this to a whole number percentage, because when we talk about relative frequency, we know that these numbers need to all add up to 1. So we're going to write it as the decimal. So 3 decimal places is going to be 3 from here. So you have an option. You can go ahead and round in your head, or you can actually go ahead and make another expression where you round. And so we can call it rounded. And we can come in here and say round 2. And then we're going to say we want our relative frequency and we want it rounded to 2. Nope. 2 decimal places. Nope, 3. 3 decimal places. And we say, okay, compute. And so now it rounded it for us to 3 decimal places. So the fact that there's only 2 here is because that third number is a 0. So we can just type straight from here. Now, you don't have to round. You can just round in your head. It's up to you. So we're going to do 0.19. Oops. 190. So we just type in 0.172, 0.487, 0.13, 0.021. And then go ahead and click on check answer. And it says, well done. So then it's asking about what percentage of responses answered always. So always is this one. So you have to convert it to a percentage. Now, converting to a percentage means multiplying by 100. Again, you can always, if you really want, you can let MyLab do that for you as well, where we say percent, and then we take our rounded number and we multiply it by 100. Or you could just move things 2 decimal places, but so that's another way. So 2.1, it says round to 1 decimal place, which it already is. So check answer. Good job. So you can just go through this stuff again so you can see how Statcrunch can do simple calculations for you, things that are tedious. It can go ahead and do those calculations for you. And so using the Statcrunch guide, using asking me for questions and going into our course site to see if anybody else has asked questions, or going in, I believe the Tech Help also does provide step-by-steps in here as well. I've edited a bunch of those Tech Helps in here to try and be a little bit more descriptive to help you, but those are just some of the many options available to you. Okay, please reach out with any questions, and good luck with the Chapter 2 homework.